What is the difference between parent-raised parrots and hand-fed parrots? Hi, I'm Kaylin, the author of The Parrot Bliss Bond. Please be sure to get your copy on Amazon so that you can learn everything to provide your parrot with a quality life so they can do quantities of walking all over you blissfully. Today we're talking about the difference between a hand-fed and a parent-raised parrot, because I had someone say that they got two conures and they were parent-raised, kind of asking what to do because they're going a little crazy in their cage, hurting themselves because they're scared. I think the best way to talk about this, in order to address the fact that we hand feed when a parrot is young so that they get accustomed to people, is to give you a good metaphor. The metaphor here is learning another language. When you're 2 years old, it's nothing. You're just like, it's all language. You're not good at necessarily any of it. Maybe 1 year old, whatever you want, you get the idea. And picking up the language at that point is really easy. When you're 20 or older, picking up a language is not easy. You're like, what's what? It's like peanuts, right? The peanut characters that are talking and you're like, I don't understand any of it. And the difference is, when you are really young, your brain can wire you for the language so that your tongue can speak it natively. And you can understand the language, you could speak it fluently. It's different than when you pick something up when you're older. Some people are really good at languages and they do pick up a language and they almost sound fluent, or maybe they'll fool you and they sound fluent. But generally speaking, hardwiring is very hard to change or override. So the minute that a baby is 6 months old, really a few, depending on, they grow, different parrots grow at a different rate. But conures, by the time they're about 8 weeks, about 2 months old, they're ready to be on their own if they need to be. They're weaned, they've got their fledged, they've got their flight feathers, they're all ready. So by the time they are 7 months old, they're pretty established. It would be like being a teenager or something like that. I think that's a fair comparison. And now as a teenager, being like taken out of the aviary, where you've been with other parrots and there's just you and another parrot and you're in a new home, that would be some really significant changes that you're not hardwired for necessarily. If I had two parrots that were parent raised, and we parent raise because they make better breeders, then I would look at probably trading them or selling them to a breeder if I wanted pets. Because it's not impossible for them to become pets, but I'm going to have to try to rewire some things that are already hardwired. Instead, if I wanted pets, I would just sell them to breeders and I would get myself some pets. On the other hand, if I wanted to breed them and they are not related and they're opposite genders, because they're having problems in their cage flying around, I tend to lean against clipping, especially a wild quote-unquote parrot, because a part of their hardwiring is that they can fly, and they've been in an aviary and they've been able to fly. So if I was going to breed them, I would try to get them a bigger cage. I would try to give them a little more flight space. If I had the room, I might convert a room into an aviary for them. And then, I could let them do their own thing. If I had them in a cage, I would try to have them around me so that they saw me all of the time, or at least as much as possible, so that they weren't so uncomfortable that they're flying around the cage. And what happens is they flap around and they do hurt themselves. That's what I would do. That's my 2 cents on the difference between the parent raised and the hand feeding. Hand feeding a parrot is really involved. When, if the eggs are in an incubator, which means that, the parents aren't even incubating the eggs, right? Then when the baby hatches, a human has to start to feed, and they initially have to feed like every 2 hours, and depending on the school of thought, it's every 2 hours starting at like 6 a.m., ending at midnight, and some people feed halfway through the night. And with every week that goes by, or, at first it's 3 days. Once the baby's 4 days, you cut back a little, but it's a very rigorous feeding schedule. And then depending on the parrot, you're going to feed them less often as they get closer and closer to weaning. But for example, a macaw, they wean around 90 days, 3 months. It could be longer. My macaws, because they're hybrids, they took like 9 months. And sometimes I still actually have to feed them some. So you have to recognize that the process of hand feeding a parrot is very different. Hey, you come back. Let's put you back in the video. Thank you. Hand feeding a parrot is very different, and it helps condition them so that they are social to humans. It helps them be super friendly. If you have a parent-raised parrot, especially one that's been in an aviary, that kind of situation, you're not likely anytime soon going to be able to pick them up. You may never be able to be as close with them as I am with Lorenza, who keeps leaving me in this video and is not giving you a good example. But I'm hoping you're getting the idea that a lot of time, a lot of effort goes into hand feeding. Give me a kiss. Give me a kiss. Give me a kiss. Good girl. Good girl. So it's a very different experience. Lorenza knows me. She trusts me. I know her. I trust her. It's going to take a lot more, if it's possible, to get to that point. Look at her. There she is, with a parent raised. So there's some options, and there's hopefully some appreciation for you on really the effort that breeders go through and the caretaking that they do to create a parrot that doesn't hurt me and is always really actually very kind to me. Although she's a one-person parrot and isn't kind to anyone else. Thank you for joining us in this video. If you have any questions about parrots, please be sure to comment below or join our group on Parrot Bliss Flock on Facebook. Until next time.